Welcome to all. Long before cities and lights, people gathered just like this, to share what the dark couldn't swallow. Today, I want to tell you about something that has survived longer than any empire, any language, any written word, a technique so powerful that it turned ordinary people into walking libraries, so ancient that it was born from tragedy, and so practical that you can start using it in the next 10 minutes. If you've ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you came there, if you've ever studied for hours, only to feel like your brain is a sieve and everything just pours through, if you've ever met someone important and 30 seconds later, their name vanished into thin air, then this is not just for you. This is meant for you. You're about to learn the Method of Loci, the memory palace technique that transformed a Greek poet into a legend, that made Roman senators speak for hours without notes, and that turns modern memory champions into superhuman performers who memorize thousands of random numbers. This is not theory. This is a battle-tested system that has worked for over 2,000 years. And here's the best part. This training also supports your English, because you will hear clear language at a comfortable level. You will learn precise terms through vivid images, and your mind will grow stronger in two directions at once. So stay with me until the end, because once you understand how to build your own palace of memory, you will never forget what truly matters again. Let me start with a story. The year is around 500 BC. The place is ancient Greece, on the island of CEOs. A wealthy nobleman named Scopas is hosting a grand banquet in his mansion. Poets, philosophers, politicians, and aristocrats fill the hall. The air smells of wine and roasted meat. Laughter echoes off marble columns. Among the guests is a poet named Simonides. He has just finished reciting a lyric poem in honor of Scopas. But the nobleman is not pleased. Why? Because part of the poem praised Castor and Pollux, the twin gods. Scopas tells Simonides he will only pay half the agreed price. Let the gods pay the other half, he says with a cruel smile. Simonides feels the sting of insult, but says nothing. Then, a servant approaches him quietly. Two young men are waiting outside. They want to speak with him. Simonides excuses himself and walks out of the banquet hall. He steps into the cool night air and looks around. No one is there. The courtyard is empty. Confusion crosses his face. Then, behind him, the earth roars. The mansion collapses. The roof caves in. Columns shatter. Screams are swallowed by falling stone. Everyone inside is crushed instantly. The bodies are so mangled, so broken, that families cannot recognize their own loved ones. Grief turns into chaos, but Simonides closes his eyes and does something extraordinary. He remembers. He walks through the banquet hall in his mind. He sees where each guest was sitting. He sees Scopas at the head of the table. He sees the philosopher near the window. He sees the merchant by the door. One by one, he names them. Irie. One by one, the bodies are identified. The families can finally mourn. And in that moment of horror, Simonides discovers something that will change human memory forever. He realizes that places are the key to remembering everything. Here's a brutal truth. Your memory is not broken. Your memory is just untrained. Most people treat their brain like a bag where they throw information randomly and hope it stays there. But memory doesn't work that way. Memory needs structure. It needs location. It needs a home. Let me explain why this happens. Your brain has two types of memory systems. One is called semantic memory. That's memory for facts, for abstract information, for things that have no physical place. The other is called spatial memory. That's memory for locations, for places you've been, for rooms you've walked through. Now here's the secret that most people never realize. Spatial memory is 10 times stronger than semantic memory. Why? Because for millions of years, humans survived by remembering where things were. Where's the water source? Where's the dangerous cliff? Where did we leave the tools? Your ancestors who could remember locations lived. Those who couldn't died. So evolution built your brain to remember places with incredible power. Even now, you can close your eyes and walk through your childhood home in your mind. You can see the kitchen. You can see your bedroom. You can see the hallway. Every detail is still there. even if you haven't been there in 20 years. That is spatial memory. And the method of Loci uses that power to remember anything you want. Let's say you need to memorize a shopping list. Milk, eggs, bread, tomatoes, cheese, chicken, rice, apples. You read it 5 times. You repeat it in your head. You walk into the store and immediately forget half of it. Why? Because those words are floating in semantic memory with no anchor, no structure, no place to live. They are like clouds, beautiful but impossible to hold. Now imagine this. You stand at the front door of your home. You open it, and there on the floor is a giant carton of milk. So huge it blocks the hallway. You have to climb over it. You step into the living room, and there on the couch are dozens of eggs, cracked open, yolk dripping everywhere. You feel disgusted. You walk into the kitchen, and the table is covered with bread loaves, stacked so high they touch the ceiling. You touch one, and it crumbles. You open the fridge, and tomatoes explode out like an avalanche, red juice splashing on your face. You taste it. You go to the sink, and a giant block of cheese sits there. So smelly you cover your nose. You move to the stove, and a whole raw chicken is dancing on the burner, doing a silly dance. You laugh. You step into the pantry, and rice pours from the shelves like a waterfall, filling your shoes. You feel it between your toes. Finally, you walk to the window, and apples are hanging from the curtains like Christmas ornaments, shiny and red. You pick one and bite it, crisp and sweet. Now close your eyes and walk through that journey again. Front door, living room, kitchen, fridge, sink. What do you see at each place? Milk, eggs, bread, tomatoes, cheese, chicken, rice, apples, ours. You just memorize the entire list in perfect order, and you will remember it tomorrow, next week, even next month. That is the method of Loci. That is the memory palace. Here's what most people never realize. This technique is not just for shopping lists or party tricks. This is how the greatest minds in history stored knowledge before books, before writing, before anything was written down. The ancient Greek and Roman orators used this method to deliver speeches that lasted hours without a single note. Cicero, one of the greatest speakers in history, would mentally walk through the Roman Forum, placing each part of his argument at a different statue, a different building, a different fountain. When he stood in front of the Senate, he simply walked through that mental journey, and the words flowed perfectly. Medieval scholars used memory palaces to store entire theological systems, complex arguments, thousands of Bible verses. They built cathedrals in their minds, and every chapel held a different concept. In the Renaissance, philosophers like Giordano Bruno taught that a well-trained memory was the foundation of all wisdom. He built memory systems so intricate, so vast, that the church feared his power and burned him at the stake. But his methods survived. They always survive. Now let me tell you something no one talks about. This technique works because it combines 3 forces that make memory unstoppable. First, spatial structure. You are placing information in locations, and your brain never forgets locations. Second, vivid imagery. You are creating wild, exaggerated, emotional pictures. The weirder, the better. Your brain ignores boring things, but it remembers the strange, the shocking, the absurd. A normal egg? Forgotten in seconds. An egg exploding on your couch? Impossible to forget. Third, you are not passively reading. You are mentally walking, seeing, touching, smelling, tasting. You are inside the experience. And when memory becomes an experience, it sticks forever. Let's go deeper. Here's how you build your first memory palace step by step. Step 1. Choose a familiar location. This is your foundation. It must be a place you know extremely well. Your home is perfect. Your workplace. Your childhood school. The route you walk every day. The key is familiarity. You need to see it clearly in your mind, without effort. Close your eyes right now and pick one location. See it. Walk through it mentally. Do you see the details? Good. That is your palace. Step 2. Define a clear path. Memory palaces work because you follow the same route every time. Start at one point and move in one direction. Front door to living room. to kitchen, to bedroom, to bathroom, or clockwise around a room, or left to right. It doesn't matter which path you choose, but it must be consistent. Consistency is the law of memory. If you change the path, you lose the information. Step 3. Select specific stations. These are your anchor points. In a small palace, you might have 5 to 10 stations. In a large palace, 50 or more. Each station is a distinct object or location: the couch, the table, the fridge, the bed, the mirror. Make a mental list of these stations in order. Walk through them a few times until the sequence feels automatic. Step 4. Create vivid images for what you want to remember. This is where the magic happens. Take the information, the word, the concept, the number, and turn it into a picture. Not a boring picture. A crazy, exaggerated, emotional, multisensory picture. If you need to remember the word justice, don't just imagine the word floating there. Imagine a giant golden scale crashing through your ceiling, so heavy it cracks the floor, and you see Lady Justice standing there, blindfolded, holding a sword dripping with honey. Taste the honey. Feel the weight of the scale. Hear the crack. The more senses you involve, the stronger the memory. Step 5. Place each image at a station. Walk through your palace mentally and place one image at each station in order. Front door gets image 1. Living room gets image. Kitchen gets image 3. Do not rush. See each image clearly before moving to the next. This is not a race. This is construction. Mowers. You are building a structure in your mind, and every image is a brick. Step 6. Walk through the palace multiple times. After you place all the images, walk through the entire palace again from start to finish. See each station. See each image. Then do it again and again. 3 to 5 walkthroughs, and the information is locked. You don't need to study for hours. You just need to walk. Right now, pause for a moment and try this. Think of 5 things you need to remember today. A name, a task, a date, a phone number, a quote, anything. Now pick 5 stations in your home: front door, couch, kitchen table, bedroom, bathroom, mirror. Create a vivid, wild image for each thing and place it at a station. Walk through mentally. Do you see them? That's the power of the palace. Here's a secret that memory champions use. You can build multiple palaces. One for temporary information, like daily tasks. One for long-term knowledge, like historical dates or vocabulary words. One for numbers. One for speeches. One for faces and names. The human brain can hold hundreds of palaces without confusion, because each palace is tied to a real location. You don't mix them up because they exist in different spaces. Imagine having a library where each room holds a different subject. That's what your mind becomes. A living, breathing library that you carry everywhere. Let me give you a real example from modern times. In 2006, a journalist named Joshua 4 heard about the USA Memory Championship. He thought memory champions were born with photographic memories, with special brains, with gifts normal people don't have. So he decided to investigate. He met a memory champion named Ed Cook. Ed told him the truth. There is no such thing as photographic memory. Every champion uses techniques. The method of Loci is the foundation. Joshua was skeptical but intrigued. He trained for 1 year using memory palaces. Just 1 year. He built palaces in his mind, placed images at stations, walked through them daily. And in 2006, Joshua 4 won the USA Memory Championship. He memorized a shuffled deck of 52 cards in under 2 minutes. He memorized hundreds of random numbers. He memorized lists of names and faces. And he wrote a book called Moonwalking with Einstein, where he explained that anyone can do this. You don't need to be special. You just need the method. Here's another brutal truth. Most education systems completely ignore this technique. Schools tell you to repeat information over and over until it sticks. They call it rote learning. But repetition without structure is torture. It's slow, painful, and ineffective. The method of Loci is fast, fun, and permanent. So why don't schools teach it? Because it requires effort to learn at first. It requires imagination. It requires you to think differently. But once you learn it, it changes everything. You become a different kind of learner. You become someone who never forgets. Let me show you how to use this for something really practical. Learning a new language. Let's say you want to learn 10 Spanish words. Perro means dog, dags. Gato means cat. Casa means house. Agua means water. Libro means book. Mesa means table. Ventana means window. Puerta means door. Zapato means shoe. Most people write these down 10 times. Repeat them. Forget them by tomorrow. Instead, use your memory palace. Front door. You open it, and a giant perro, a huge shaggy dog, jumps on you, licking your face. You feel his wet tongue. Living room couch. A gato, a fat orange cat, is sitting there like a king, staring at you with judgment. You hear him purr. Kitchen table. A tiny casa, a miniature house, sits on the table. Smoking coming from its chimney. You smell wood smoke. Kitchen sink. Agua, water is pouring from the faucet like a waterfall, flooding the floor. You feel the cold water on your feet. Bookshelf. A giant libro, a leather-bound book, falls from the shelf and hits you on the head. You feel the impact. Dining room. The mesa, the table, is floating in the air, spinning slowly. You reach out and touch it. Chair by the window. The silla, the chair, is made of ice, and when you sit, it freezes your legs. You shiver. Bedroom window. The ventana. The window shatters, and a bird flies through, singing loudly. You hear the song. Bedroom door. The puerta. The door is made of chocolate, and you take a bite. You taste the sweetness. Closet floor. A zapato, a shoe, is dancing by itself, tapping like in a musical. You hear the rhythm. Now walk through your palace again. What do you see at each station? Dog, cat, house, water, book, table, chair, window, door, shoe. You just learned 10 Spanish words in 5 minutes, and you will remember them for weeks. Here's what makes this even more powerful. You can stack layers of information at the same station. Let's say you want to remember not just the word, but also how to pronounce it and what it means in context. At the front door, you see the perro, the dog, but now he is wearing a name tag that says perro in huge letters, and he is barking in a specific rhythm that matches the pronunciation. And beside him, a child is petting him and saying, "This is my dog." 3 pieces of information, 1 location, 1 vivid scene. Your brain absorbs all of it at once. This is one of the most powerful techniques in history, and yet most people never learn it because they think memory is something you either have or don't have. That's a lie. Memory is a skill. And like any skill, it grows with practice. The first time you build a memory palace, it feels slow and awkward. You have to think about every step. But after 10 palaces, 20 palaces, it becomes natural. You start doing it automatically. You meet someone new, and instantly their name is placed in a palace. You hear an interesting fact, and instantly it has a location. Your mind becomes organized, clear, powerful. Let me tell you something no one talks about. This technique also changes how you think. When you practice the method of Loci, you train your imagination. You train your ability to visualize. You train your ability to create connections between abstract ideas and concrete images. And those skills transfer to everything. Problem solving becomes easier because you can see solutions in your mind. Creativity increases because your brain is used to generating wild, unexpected images. Focus improves because you are practicing deep mental immersion. Every time you walk through a palace, this is not just a memory trick. This is brain training at the highest level. Right now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine 1 year from now, you have built 20 memory palaces. 1 for vocabulary in any language you are learning. 1 for historical dates and events. 1 for important people's names and faces. 1 for scientific concepts. 1 for book summaries. 1 for speeches you need to give. 1 for recipes. 1 for workout routines. Imagine the confidence you feel when someone asks you a question, and the answer appears instantly, not because you memorized it by rote, but because you placed it in a palace, and you can see it right there in your mind. Imagine never walking into a room and forgetting why you came. Imagine never blanking on a name, a date, a fact that matters. That version of you is not fantasy. That is what happens when you master this ancient method. Let's review what we learned. Choose a familiar location that you know extremely well. Step 2. Define a clear path through that location that you will follow every time. Step 3. Select specific stations along that path where you will place information. Step 4. Create vivid, exaggerated, multisensory images for what you want to remember. Step 5. Place each image at a station in order. Step 6. Walk through the palace multiple times to lock the information. This system is over 2,000 years old. It survived because it works. It works for shopping lists and Spanish vocabulary. It works for speeches and scientific formulas. It works for anyone willing to practice. If you apply these steps daily, in 1 month you will notice that remembering becomes easier. In 3 months, you will have multiple palaces holding hundreds of pieces of information. In 6 months, people will ask how your memory got so good. But more than that, you will become someone who never loses what matters. You will become a keeper of knowledge in a world where most people let everything slip away. Remember, this video wasn't just about memory. It was also about improving your English through vivid storytelling, clear instructions, and practical examples. Every sentence helped you grow. If this helped you, subscribe right now. We don't just teach techniques. We help you become someone who masters both knowledge and language. Your palace is ready. Now go build it.